Mid-February 2019. Why is that time memorable?
We were opening 2 stores on the same day, and we couldn't take possession of our second location in Oak City. So we were rolling in Matthews, unloading trucks. Oak City, the trucks were there and nowhere to go with the merchandise. We made a quick pivot, got space in a store down the strip center. And by the end of the day, we were unloading trucks and building all the furniture in that location. And it was like a parade of furniture when we loaded in our store 3 days later. It was amazing.
Join Charlie Maloof as he explores the personal journeys of Broad River Retail's very own memory makers. Welcome to Stories from the River.
Hey, we are here with Lynn Knowles. This is Welcome Back to Stories from the River. Welcome to the podcast, Lynn.
Charlie, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Super excited to have this conversation with you. And let's get going. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Before we get going, really quickly to talk about your stories from the river at the river, tell us a little bit about yourself prior to joining Broad River.
Well, I was born in Gas City, Indiana. I won't tell you all the details that led up to past that. And then I spent 11 years. Well, I graduated from Indiana University. Go Hoosiers.
Okay.
I spent 11 years in Ohio in the department store business as a buyer and a planner. After that, I spent 18 years at Cato, that's here in Charlotte. And I spent half of that time in planning and the other half in merchandising. And I'm about to celebrate 6 years at Broad River Retail.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Now, when you were with Cato, were you in Charlotte?
Yes.
Okay. So you had made the move to Charlotte. We're so glad that you did. And nearly 6 years with us. And you're currently our Associate Director of Merchandising, which is a really critical role. And it's been pretty turbulent the last couple of years, which I'm excited to kind of hear it directly first person from you. So take us through your career journey. You joined us about 6 years ago. I remember interviewing you, and I remember when you joined. Take us through your career arc with us.
Well, I joined as a category manager and was exposed to a business I really didn't have a lot of experience with, and worked through the upholstery categories, occasional tables. I've had exposure to all categories. I worked alongside Janet as another category manager. And after that, I was promoted to senior manager and ultimately associate director.
I kind of want to ask you if you have a favorite category.
Do I have a favorite category? Well, I'm going to have to say it's sleep right now.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer. So you lead our merchandising department. Tell us about your team.
I have a great team of 2 category managers, Shelby Hill and Cameron Piersanti. And we have a category planner, Natalia Ramirez, that recently joined the team. And we just have an accepted offer yesterday for a second category planner. So we've been able to grow the team. We have a great committed team. They are smart women. We love to build each other up, and they love to make things happen for Broad River Retail.
That's exciting that the team is growing. I'm sure you've got the next couple of roles planned as well.
I do.
I had no doubt. So it's good that you're growing. So, tell us about merchandising within Broad River, because I know, we're kind of a single source on the furniture side, by and large, with Ashley, and then, different vendors with sleep categories and certainly with accessories. So what are you responsible for within merchandising?
One of our roles is to put together an assortment that supports the ultimate revenue goals of the organization. It's our responsibility to make sure that we're offering a good, better, best, basic merchandising principled assortment. And along with that, pricing it right. We collaborate with our marketing team to plan all of the promotions. We plan the transitions. So as things either run their life cycle or they get discontinued, then we are planning for the next thing, and we manage all of that.
So you mentioned you work with marketing. What other departments? So I think you collaborate with a lot of departments. So just is there one you don't? Retail, operations, supply chain, finance?
Visual impact, retail performance. the things that we do touch nearly every other part of the organization.
And what about the price tags? Do you oversee those?
We are responsible for tagging in the stores, the layout, what they look like. We collaborate with retail operations because they're the ones who actually execute that in store. So we're constantly working with them on improvements, what needs to be changed. And then our team actually makes them, puts them together, builds them with all of the information. And our goal there is there to be the silent salesperson on a busy Saturday when every HFC is covered up. Every guest knows what they're getting and how much how much it is.
Yeah, there's really so much to it, like from planograms to tagging to what's selling, what's hot, what's not, to new introductions.
Analysis.
And preparing the training that's coming in and placing the orders. And oh, by the way, not every store is like an apples to apples, right? You've got really small showrooms and you got really large showrooms, and you have to figure out, okay, what do I put here amongst the Ashley assortment? And then what do I put here? Like, how do you make that decision to dwindle it down for like a smaller showroom while making it optimal for their sales? And how much regionality goes into it?
Well, about, I would say about 80% of their assortment is what we consider our core assortment. That helps us build in efficiencies with supply chain so we can take advantage of cost savings with containers and things such as that. And then that allows us another 20% to tweak for regionality.
So you've done merchandising for a while before joining the river that you talked about, right? In various facets and functions. What do you, and now doing it in home furnishings, right, with how we are approached to merchandising, what do you love about merchandising?
Well, I'm a planner by nature, but I also love some of the riskier parts of it. Like, what do you think about that? Well, you have this information that would tell you that it may be good, but I just have a feeling based on trends, based on market research, that this is something that we could take a chance on, and we think that our guests would really respond to, whether it's an apparel item or whether it's a sofa. I like the marriage of those two thought processes and see what happens.
Yeah. You mentioned trends. I imagine trend watching and shows, magazines, et cetera, is a big part of it, like staying ahead of the game in terms of what's coming next, what's hot now. How much does that factor into it?
Well, I mean, we want to make sure that we have the most current offerings. We look at HGTV. We're always looking at competitors' catalogs, magazines. I mean, the internet is great for that. We can look up in real time. We probably could do it more. And we are, because we buy from one resource, we have to use our creative juices to say, okay, we can take these pieces from that and still create the look that we're going for.
Yeah, but Ashley's designers are also
They're amazing.
They are amazing, but it's also bilateral communication. Don't they come to us a lot of times and say, hey, what's hot, what's working, and look to larger licensees for input in terms of what to design next?
Absolutely. You know, we work together to offer up the things that we find are missing from our assortments and say, you know, we really think we have opportunity if we could add more leathers to our assortment. That,
for instance, yeah.
As an example. So yes, it's a constant communication of this is what we're thinking. Do you think your guest would respond to this even? So that's another thing that I love is collaborating with the corporate team at Ashley and just exchanging ideas.
Yeah.
We all get better that way.
And also other licensees or retailers to figure out what's hot there, and maybe that's where those ideas come from. I know you've been talking about the motion category. I've even heard you talk about a name. Maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we won't for a new kind of storefront. Maybe we won't go there just yet for a motion type store. Okay, that's really cool. Let's switch gears a little bit. So the future of work, remote work from home, work from anywhere. It's changed a lot in the last 2.5 years since COVID started. I'd like to talk a little bit about how the pandemic adjustment and the shift has been for you and your team. I mean, you guys, I remember the time when you and Shelby, you guys, maybe 2 or 3 of you were sharing an office and collaborating within one office, and so it's not like that anymore. So talk about the before and the after with just how work is today.
Okay, happy to answer that. So Shelby and I, we did share an office. Now we also have a war room, what we call a war room at Fort Mill. And so we would spend a lot of time in there with additional people we wanted to collaborate with. So there was always this level of osmosis, if you will, where we may not be talking directly about a subject, but it would be a thought process, and we could be sitting in the same room doing email, but somebody would say, oh, what about this item? And then it would trigger conversations. And then we went remote on March 13th or 17th, whatever that date was. And I personally had never really used Teams before. And so the first thing I did on Monday morning is, okay, let's set up a Teams group, figure out, okay, Google, what do I need to do? Let's set up a Teams group. And we have really, I think my team has done an amazing job work from home. You know, there are lots of risks to get, are people really working? And we just have a great team. There's trust there. Mm-hmm. They're there when we need to be. And it provides flexibility. I would say the biggest challenge with it is that the boundaries are so blurred between work and home. And we have to say, no more. Let's
cut it off. And you guys have been tasked with a lot of deadlines on, we'll get into the price increases topic here soon. But so from working in the same office, from this thing about osmosis that you talked about in the war room together and always collaborating and just when you think of it, you're right there and you can share ideas, to being remote and being in separate rooms, maybe you're using Teams or Teams chat. How have you been able to maintain connections with your team and maintain that level of osmosis and collaboration, which is one of our core values, in a remote environment?
The standard, weekly check-in, daily check-ins. I mean, we use the chat nonstop. And it's great because we just say, hey, can I call you? Is now a good time? Mm-hmm. And then as things have opened back up, we've been regularly meeting in Fort Mill 1 to 2 days a week. It just depends on what the business needs are. We had a really exciting meeting last week. I think it was last week or the week before, putting together the outdoor assortment for 2023. And we all felt a huge sense of fulfillment being together. We had pictures everywhere. We had statistics everywhere. We had store performance all spread out. And we really came to a good place with that.
Yeah, I don't think I've done a really good job of collating all of the communications with chat. Now it's just one more touch point: chat, text, phone calls. Sometimes someone will send me a chat and I may not see it for 2 or 3 days. Oh, I didn't know I need to go in there. There's probably a better way to do it, but I'm sure you guys have become really proficient at it sounds like. So how are you able to effectively manage remote workers?
Trust. They trust me. I trust them. I know they're doing the right thing. If they have questions, they know I'm there to support them. If I have questions, they're there for me.
I know some of that trust is because you worked with them before the pandemic. Is there anyone you hired during the pandemic and they just started working from home? And then how does that trust get built?
Both Cameron and Natalia have come on board since the pandemic. Actually, Shelby was on board for 2 months. So she was brand new to Broad River. It's connecting on a deeper level that has nothing to do with Broad River retail, in my opinion.
Okay.
Like caring about them, hearing what their loves are, what their passions are, what their concerns are, what makes them feel fulfilled, and trying to lean into those kinds of things. Because after all, we spend a lot of hours of our lives working, and I want it to be fun for me, so I try and make it more fun for them.
Got it. Let's just pull the layers back one more level on just the pros and cons of working remotely, and maybe even talk about what you miss about working in the office every day and what you don't miss, or what you enjoy about working from home or working from anywhere every day. Can you go through the pros and cons just a little bit?
The pros, number one, is productivity, uninterrupted productivity. I say, we're available for a chat, but if we're in the middle of something, everybody's cool with saying, okay, just in 10 minutes or in 30 minutes. The cons I mentioned earlier are the blurred boundaries. The pros are, we're with our families. There's no commute time. That's the best thing for me because I'm about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour away from Fort Mill. So I really appreciate not having that commute.
Yeah, I do as well, and it's a lot more efficiencies. Although missing some of the collaboration from time to time. How often do you come to the office? Or come
1 to 2 days a week now. Okay. I mean, it's been gradual. It was 1 day a week, 1 day every couple weeks. And it's just increased as the business needs. We're being in stores, between stores and the office. It's been like 3 or 4 days lately.
So I want to shift gears a little bit. Do you remember our Orange Crush tours?
I do.
Okay, and you started with us in 2016, so you've been through all 3 of them. OC1, the original, in 2017, OC2 in 2018, and then during our Year of Purpose, OC3, the Memory Maker Tour in 2019, which was like 24 locations, both distribution centers at the time or whatever it was. Maybe it was just one distribution center, but we went to Fort Mill for the call center and ops at the time. So what are your memories or recollections from the Orange Crush roadshows?
Those were the most high energy, intense events that I think maybe I've ever participated in. One of my favorite memories, I have 2 favorite memories. One of them are the tunnels, where at the end, after we had been there and the business plans had been presented and all of the breakout sessions had happened, and we were really just trying to encourage the teams there, and all of the visitors would create a tunnel and run through. It's fun.
That was a lot of fun. You said there was 2. What was the other one?
For OC3, we did breakout sessions and really got to know people, and people in the stores got to know one another. And that is one of my fondest memories because I saw in a 30-minute breakout session a relationship among co-memory makers rather, change completely.
It's so interesting that you brought that up. We were in our Year of Purpose in 2019, and we were and we're going to talk about that here in this because you had a profound impact on that year and what we were doing there. But we tried to be purposeful. We called it the Memory Maker Roadshow, and so there were purpose service projects, there were purposeful presentate spaces throughout the showroom and the offices. And then I had forgotten about these purpose breakout sessions, but you're right. Those tears were flowing. I mean, connection was happening. So they're very powerful moments. Serving together was really powerful, but we got real and we got authentic, at all levels. I mean, we just there was no hierarchy. It was like, hey, I don't care what level you're on. We're going to get together and break into small groups and have these purpose breakout sessions. Those were fond memories.
It was a great experience.
Okay, I haven't had a chance on the podcast to talk to anyone about going to market, but you've gone to a lot of markets, Vegas and High Point markets, and maybe some other ones. So I'd like to shift gears and just talk to you about attending market, seeing the new introductions, and just getting your perspective. I mean, Shelby has joined us in Vegas market, and most of your team attends High Point market because it's not that far away, so we can take the whole team. What can you share with us about your market experience from an Ashley licensee perspective?
Well, the Vegas markets, the first one was at the Bellagio, or the meetings were at the Bellagio, and then we went to the showroom. I was stunned by the number of people in the meeting room. The showrooms are set up beautifully. It is always helpful to see the merchandise in person. You see the fabrics, you see the scale. All of that to me is like that's the art part of it that I enjoy very, very much. And then the science part comes later when you have to price it and figure out exactly where you're going to fit it and put it. I enjoy markets. I like the collaboration. We have market specialists who guide us around the showroom. It's an opportunity for us to connect with the Ashley corporate team. There's just been a lot of relationship building. It's just it's fun. It's hard work, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's a bit of a grind. I was going to ask you if you enjoyed it. You said you just did, but I mean, do you look forward to it? Because I know it's time away from your family. It's a big trip going out to the West Coast when we go to Vegas. I mean, it's a bit of a sacrifice. It's usually over a weekend, it's several days. And it's not just Ashley. You got accessory vendors, mattress vendors, et cetera. So do you look forward to it?
I do look forward to it. It's a lot less travel than my previous jobs. And so I really enjoy it. My family is great. They're pretty self-sufficient at this point. So I really like it.
Well, are you glad that we're no longer, I would say no longer attending Vegas Market, or at least haven't been in a couple of years? It seems like it's gone with the pandemic. There have been fewer introductions and travel was put to a stop. And then there wasn't as much of a need because we could see the introductions in High Point. Some people used to like to go to Vegas just because they wanted to go to Vegas and have fun, right? So we would go and work.
Right.
We might get a nice meal or two out of it,
right.
to appease us for being away from our families and for working. Are you glad that we're no longer attending Vegas, or do you miss it?
I miss it. I'd love to go.
Okay.
I'd love to go.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a January Vegas Market right around the corner.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. Awesome. And do you think that market is best done in person, the way we've done it, or can it be shifted to virtual? Like, where do you see the future of, do you think there will always be a need to be conducted in person and to see the new introductions?
I don't know. Technology is great and you can see everything you need to see and up close. Although there's just something about the personal connection of being there and seeing it in person.
Mhm.
It's easier to remember when you see it in person. It's more inspirational to say, "Oh, yes, I can see how this would work in this lifestyle and how this works in that lifestyle." I think it's just more inspiring to see it in person.
No doubt. And see it, touch it, feel it. What's the quality of the case goods or the seating, and how deep's the seating? How does it really sit? And what's the hand feel like? All that kind of good stuff, right?
Right.
So I want to shift gears again. We touched on purpose just a little bit earlier and talk about the reveal of our purpose statement, furnishing life's best memories. Do you remember when we launched that and revealed it to the organization in August 2018 at our leadership summit?
I do. It was a really interesting time. I could not believe that we were actually talking about this subject in a leadership summit and wasn't sure what it was going to look like or what to think of it.
Okay. And we had Joey Ryman and Inky Johnson there and had some intentionality around the reveal. And then following Joey Ryman's book, the story of purpose it's an activation part of it. He says, be it, do it, say it. And so we wanted to hold ourselves accountable to not just have these 4 words launched and then just forget about them and move on to the next thing. And we wanted to form a purpose activation committee, which you were on the purpose activation committee. And so when we had our year of purpose in 2019, which the PAC, started in the fall of 2018 and carried through the whole year of 2019. What can you tell us about your experience serving on the PAC from that during that time period?
It has been the highlight of my career.
Oh, wow. Go tell us more.
It was an opportunity to connect, first of all, with maybe some people in the organization at a variety of levels that maybe I wouldn't have connected so deeply with outside of that committee. And then it was the commitment to read to improve myself and to improve Broad River. It just really had a profound impact on me as a wife, a mother, a memory maker, a daughter. There are so many things that have transformed me professionally that have come out of that committee.
Yeah, the memory maker phrase came as after that summit in 2018, but the year of purpose, from imperative.com and the work we did with those folks with their software platform, peer-to-peer coaching, as well as the work we did that led into what we ended up doing in 2020 and the Purpose 2030 conference in New York City, hosted by Imperative, Purpose Bombs, OC3 that we talked about, the Memory Maker Tour, book clubs, shared learnings. There's a lot to it. And a lot of favorite memories. Do you have a favorite memory from our year of purpose in 2019 and the year when you served, helping us really indoctrinate purpose throughout the organization for over a year? Do you have just a standout memory or two?
My memory is of the relationships that still continue today that would not have occurred most likely without the time together. And the things that it taught me about leading my team. I just don't think that I would be where I am today without that.
Okay. So I haven't mentioned yet Purpose 828, which was during that year of purpose. It was the following August, August 28th, 2019. What was Purpose 828? What's a Purpose Summit?
Purpose Summit is a gathering of memory makers to focus on purpose and identify our own personal purpose, because it wasn't just a committee of 12 or 15 people, whatever the number was. It was about having everyone in the organization take time and figure out what really makes them tick, what makes them feel fulfilled, and then how to, given the tools to connect what that is to what you do on a daily basis. Because you may not think that what you do is connected to that, but what I learned was everything we do is connected to that, and how we do it is connected to that.
Yeah, and how we connect our personal why to the organizational why was something we worked on throughout the year. We brought in, it was a long day. We brought in a lot of speakers from around the country, and it was on August 28th, but why else was it called Purpose 828? You may have a little bit of insight here.
I remember Charlie saying, "Hey, I want to share a secret with you. What do you think about Purpose 828? And Charlie and I happened to attend the same church. And I believe from the pulpit that Sunday, the pastor had quoted Romans 8:28, that all things work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And it was just really perfect and it was a providential message that, yes, it's Purpose 828.
It happened to be on the day, also tied to Romans 8:28, which is about his purpose, and which is what's really important to us. And we were struggling to find a name and identity for it, like Purpose Day, Purpose Summit, and it had some really bad names, but it came out to be the perfect name for the Purpose Summit that we did. Very memorable day. So shifting gears again, we talked at the beginning of the podcast about the wild store opening. You called it the parade of furniture from one location to another when we were doing concurrently 2 store openings, Matthews, in 2 different cities, Matthews and Raleigh. And so we had Janet on the podcast recently, and I asked her about Visual Impact's role with store openings, renovations, remodels, because a renovation and remodel is almost the same as a store opening from Visual Impact's perspective. And I think also from merchandising's perspective, merchandising also plays a key, major, critical role in these projects. We've been on a tear recently with these projects. What can you tell us about merchandising's role for a store opening or a major remodel project?
Our role on a new store opening starts months and months and months before any merchandise ever goes in there. And our job is to put together the best assortment to maximize and meet revenue goals. And then we work with our AFI partners to plot that stuff on a floor plan, make sure that we have the right balance of merchandise. We enter all the purchase orders. Then we monitor that and change along the way as we get new information, because some of this we have to work on months and months in advance. So it's a lot of follow-up. And then when it's go time and it's time to deliver the merchandise, we link arms with Visual Impact and we get out there and we unload furniture, haul trash, and get the stores open.
It's amazing how quickly we can get a store open. And we have 60, 80 people out there just cranking it 2, 3, 4 days. I mean, it goes pretty quickly. It's long hours, hard work, but it's pretty effective. We've got it almost down to a science, I think.
It is an impressive feat.
So do you have another favorite store opening story that you care to share?
It's about how fast we can get things done. So in 2018, we opened Cary and Northeast Columbia back to back. I think one was in February, one was in March. And the February one was my very first furniture grand store opening. I was dumbfounded by the fact that we walked in there on a Monday, and when we walked out of there on Thursday, they were ready to sell furniture with the store set, every piece built, the store completely tagged. And so then we go to Northeast Columbia, and I was like, we should do a time-lapse camera and watch this happen. And it is mind-blowing.
I didn't know that was your idea to do the time-lapse camera. I love that time-lapse video. We'll put that time-lapse video in the resource show notes here for this episode.
Okay.
Because I think we still have it on YouTube. It's really cool. And it shows it all happening very quickly, which it does happen quickly, but it even accelerates it even further. Okay, shifting gears once again. The I word, inflation and price increases. So one of the major downsides from the COVID pandemic has been rampant inflation. And our industry has certainly felt it, which you've had a front row seat to. When did we first see a price increase from the COVID pandemic?
April of 2020. So 1 month in.
1 month in. And we started seeing it well before the country started talking about inflation. And so April 2020, right after it became a global pandemic and it was disrupting supply chains, at least in our industry, no one else was talking about it. Well, except us in home furnishings, we were talking about it. And in the before times, how often would there be a major price increase? I say the before times, like people know what I'm talking about. Before the pandemic, we probably would do maybe a major price increase once every 2 years, once every 3 years.
I believe that there were only 2 prior to 2020 that I participated in. And I was 4 years in. So every other year, maybe.
Yeah. So there's a lot of price stability and they were very infrequent and they were very minor or nominal. They were like 2 or 3%, right? And so we had an approach to that. I've joked that the best time to have purchased furniture was February 2020, because, or a new mattress, maybe President's Day 2020 was like the absolute best time because it was priced, unfortunately for the guest and the consumer, much lower, and it was shipping a lot faster. So if you count every time we have had a major price increase since that first one in April 2020 during COVID, that forced us to do a major tag reprint and a repricing, how many times has it been since COVID began?
For furniture, it's 9. We've had some minor adjustments, so we're going to call it 9.5. We could go for 10. And in the sleep category, we've had 3 with third-party vendors.
It's unbelievable. Nearly 10 price increases. And I know there's one price deduction, so maybe it's 9.5 or net 9. But you always have to work on that. 10 or 11 major overhauls to pricing in a two-year period. That's unbelievable. It's, talk about like amplifying the workload. And I know you guys have really felt it. And so what do you think has been a cumulative percentage increase for our company in terms of passing along those price increases at the retail level? Like what's been the retail impact at a cumulative level?
With the things going up and some going down, my estimate is 20%.
Really? I probably would guess higher on a cumulative level. So what all is involved in an enterprise price increase initiative from a merchandising perspective?
The first piece is the analysis, and that is annualizing the revenue and the margin impact for every item in our assortment. And for those keeping score, there are about 9,000 Ashley SKUs. It's a few. So we analyze the margin impact on all of those SKUs. We compare it to the marketplace. We want to make sure that we're maintaining the price-value relationship on the things that we're taking up. And then we want to make sure that we're maintaining reasonable retail price points. There are differing philosophies on that, but we like to keep it real clean in our stores and make it easy for our guests.
Yeah, and part of the reason you do the annualized impact is because we don't want to slide our margins backwards. We don't want to get an unfair margin, but we want to try to maintain that same margin to maintain our profit model, right? And maintain a sustainable long-term business.
And to that point, every item may go up 3%, but we may not raise the retail on every item by 3%. So there's a lot of work that goes into what makes the most sense. Do we take the beds up? Do we not take the case pieces up? Do we take the sofas up? Do we take the sleepers up? So it's an intense project.
Yeah, because we don't price things at like 283.22. We try to find that retail price point, and it's hard to just do it in increments of 2, 3, or 4%. So some you might have to lose the margin on, and some you might have an opportunity to, maybe you're priced too low to begin with, or had some opportunity in the marketplace, whether it's a kind of a commodity good or got more of a kind of fashionable look, exclusive look to it. So a lot goes into it. They're not easy.
And we want to make sure that we have like collections priced the same so that our guests and our HFCs are not in a position of a guest saying, well, these look exactly the same. Why are they a different price? So there's a lot of thought and effort that goes into a pricing analysis and change.
Yeah, and to maintain our same kind of promotions and everything, we want to be around for a long time. There's also got to be trust from the customer who's shopping it, that it's got to make sense. So we do have to take it very carefully and seriously how we're going to present to the guest and also to our people, because they've got to sell it. Okay, thank you for all the work you've done on you and your team. I know I don't want to minimize it and say dozens, hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands of cumulative hours. It's a lot.
I'm really proud of the work that the team has put in, and we have a system set up now that we're fast getting the data pulled, then we can spend more time on our analysis.
Well, I want that system to work in reverse now. Now we need to see deflation come and like work it backwards the other way, because we will lower our prices with that. Okay, so we had a sleep summit for the first time in a few years. We had the 2022 Sleep Summit this past May for all of our HFCs and retail performance memory makers. What is a sleep summit and why is it important?
What it is a gathering of all of our memory makers from retail performance and in one central location. We have so many now, we have to do it over multiple days and multiple sessions. And we bring in all of our vendor partners, complete with samples and information. And it's really just a refocusing and a reset on how important a good night's sleep is. And every one of our partners has a different message to tell. We have a very broad sleep assortment, so we want to make sure that our HFCs are armed with the important information so that they can walk a customer through their sleep selection process confidently and with all the knowledge.
Yeah, it's a half-day training session, and I think we did 5 of them, and everyone came into Concord, North Carolina, to the Embassy Suites again, and it was good to get everyone in person. There's a lot of prizes. Our vendors stepped up, a lot of giveaways and prizes to make it fun and interactive and learning. So what are you most excited about related to the sleep category for Broad River over these next 12 months?
There's a lot of newness and transitions, and we've been in this period where we haven't had a lot of newness in sleep. I think it's time to reinvigorate the assortment, and I'm looking forward to that. It's a constant state these days.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. Okay, shifting gears again back to people, memory makers. Is there anyone you would consider as one of your favorite all-time memory makers who you've been able to work with over the years?
This is a hard question, Charlie, because I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings.
But you're also going to make someone's day.
Well, I have to say that Kim Harkness,
okay,
our senior director of marketing, her positive attitude and get stuff done attitude,
GSD,
is so inspiring. And at a time, she came to Broad River, I think I have been here almost a year. And I quite frankly was drowning. And it was a lot to take on and absorb and learn. And she was just a super positive influence to me to say, oh no, you can do it, and we're going to do it and have a little bit of fun along the way. She was my neighbor across the hall when we were in person. So she's a great memory maker.
That's so cool. I love that. She'll enjoy hearing that. Okay, So you've seen a lot of change since you've joined us. How has the company grown, adapted, and changed in these 6 years?
Well, grown, doubled in store count, tripled in distribution center count. Just a lot of change and fast. I think that we go as fast as we can, and we're always ahead. And I think it seems overwhelming at the time, like when we're going to open 3 stores in 3 months and everybody's head starts to spin around and say, we get it done. I mean, that's where the collaboration in this organization comes in, and everybody's working toward the same goal and rowing in the same direction. And it's just really fulfilling to see those things come to fruition.
Okay, so let me ask it the other way. What has remained constant over these last 6 years?
The care that is shown to the memory makers. And it shows up in a lot of different ways. It may be different for one group of memory makers than it is another, but the underlying current is always, how can we care for our memory makers?
That's an important quality to have as a constant. Okay, now that we're well into the program here, let's do an icebreaker. I've got a quick get to know Lynn Knowles at her core question for you. When you think about your legacy, you're at the end of your career, you're reflecting back, and you're thinking about how you'd like others to think of you or remember you. What 3 words come to mind that you'd like to describe you?
Committed, loyal, and a woman of integrity. I know that's more than 3 words.
We'll go with integrity. Committed, loyal, and integrity. That's awesome. I feel like I know you, and I think those fit pretty well. Well, thank you for sharing those. So since you've been a memory maker here at the River, what is something that you've learned about yourself or about what you've been able to accomplish that has surprised even you?
That I can be a compassionate leader. There have been wonderful examples set for me at Broad River in you and Manny and others that really it's about the people. And that was a somewhat new concept for me.
Now, you strike me as a very compassionate person. Would you not have called yourself a compassionate leader in your previous career?
No.
And why is that?
I had elbows out and I was trying to get ahead.
Sharp elbows.
And that didn't work.
Okay, got it. And so unsung heroes, I know that it always takes a village to achieve success. Who are some of the unsung heroes of your world? And tell us what they do or have done that help you or have helped you.
The one that leaps to mind is Brian Deckelnick in supply chain. We were without a leader for a period of time, and Brian stepped up and said, okay, I'll do it. And he was actually leading the merchandising team at the onset of the pandemic. And he was just a calming force and voice to say, okay, we can do this, and you've got this. So let's roll.
You reminded me of that Brian also wore the hat of merchandising leader for a period of time. That's a great answer.
You need to get him on here.
His name comes up quite a bit. Mentorship is so important. Where from whom do you get your mentorship?
My mentor's name is Betty Green.
Okay, but tell us about Betty Green.
She has been my mentor for 20 years. She came into my life at a time that I didn't even know I needed her. And she is one woman who holds me accountable. She loves me for who I am and exactly where I am.
Is she in Charlotte?
She is in Charlotte.
Oh, that's awesome. You get to meet with her regularly?
Yes, I do.
That's fantastic. That's so important. I can just feel the emotion coming from you from just having, I assume you would recommend everyone has a mentor that they can go to on a regular basis.
Well, I do, but sometimes you hear what you don't want to hear.
But sometimes it's what we need to hear.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, that's so important. Hey, so what's the best advice you've ever received? Maybe it's come from Betty Green. I'm not sure, but what's the best advice you've ever received?
This came from the Purpose Activation Committee, and it wasn't advice given directly to me. And it was from Nicholas Pierce in his book, The Purpose Path. And the question that you have to ask yourself is it mine to do? And that has been both empowering and freeing for me as a person who tries to do it all. And I don't have to.
We need to put that book, that is a powerful book by Dr. Nicholas Pierce. We need to put that one in the show notes as well. Thank you for mentioning that. That's a great advice there. Okay, so you've been with us for several years. If you could go back to your first day, what would you tell your younger self about what life is going to be like at Broad River Retail?
It's challenging, but fun in ways that I never imagined. I've been in retail for almost 30 years. None of that is like what this is. So it's been fun.
What advice would you give that younger self 6 years ago?
Be open-minded. Go for it. You can do it.
That's good advice. Okay, let's switch gears to culture. I know we're biased, but we believe that our culture at the River is unique and really special. You know, everyone thinks their kid is very special. We think our culture is very special. What is your favorite thing about our culture here at the River? And in your opinion, what is it that makes our culture special?
I think that the main thing is that we are all given space to develop as leaders and to connect with one another. Like the connection is really important. I know with virtual, we say it's hard, but if we're intentional about it, we can make that happen. We just attended the Global Leadership Summit, and there was one whole segment on connection that really spoke to me. It spoke to the people on my team. And so we're very excited to have those kinds of tools to deepen our connections with everybody.
Yeah, shared learning experiences are really powerful. What is something that happens here that doesn't happen at other companies?
Ooh. We have fun. I'm not sure I can say that I've had as much fun. I mean, it's hard sometimes too, but the fun outweighs the hard.
Yes. What's the joy that comes from a smile or a laugh? I mean, it can be pretty powerful, right? So you got to laugh and have fun and work hard, but have fun while you're doing it. Thrive. You know that our word of the year this year is thrive. What does it mean for you to thrive?
To be the best in this order: wife, mom, daughter, and memory maker.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so what advice would you offer up to a fellow memory maker to help him or her thrive this year?
Prioritize and set boundaries. We've had lots of calls, and another thing Broad River pours into each of us. We all have the opportunity with these Thrive calls on different topics. Like make it a priority and understand what is urgent and what is important.
Yeah, it's interesting. We just did a Thrive and Purpose series for the organization on time management. And so that's a really good one. So prioritize and make sure you have good balance in your life at home and at work. Okay, perceptions and misperceptions. What is one thing about Broad River that you think would surprise others from the outside looking in?
Oh, we have it all together.
Yeah, we're very polished,
It's
right?
easy. It's easy.
There's nothing messy here. Nothing to see here. Just move along.
But pull the curtain back and you see everybody like this. The vision I had in my mind when I was thinking about this is everybody's linked arms.
Yeah, that's a great vision. That's a great visual. And I think it's probably applicable too. Hey, what book are you currently reading?
I'm starting on Soundtracks by John Acuff, and it's actually a book that our entire team is reading together and discussing.
Yeah, we heard John Acuff speak on this topic at the Global Leadership Summit, and several of our departments who are doing follow-ups with their teams are now reading that book. So the thoughts that you tell yourself and how you can transform your brain physiologically are really powerful. I like to call it, what's the playlist?
Retire and replace.
You retire and replace. That's a good phrase. Hey, what show are you currently binge watching?
Top Chef Portland.
Okay. What's that about?
It's a competition. It's a cooking competition. Almost everything in my life is a competition. I hate to say that, but it's a cooking competition. And this season is actually in Portland, Oregon, and it's chefs from around the United States who compete in quick-fire challenges and then ultimately bigger elimination challenges to see who comes out on top.
My wife loves those Top Chef shows. I think my son Luke watches them with her. But by the way, there's nothing wrong about competition. You know my thoughts on that. I think it gets a bad rap. It comes from the root word competare, which means to strive together, and it just makes us better. Okay, so when you stop working for the day and have some time for yourself or your family, what do you like to do for fun or to relax?
My family, again, family games. And my son is an athlete, and so we pretty much follow him everywhere he goes.
Hey, did I hear that you or your husband or do you like game shows? And did I hear that you've been on a game show before, or your husband has?
We both have.
Okay, what game shows have you been on?
My husband was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire back in the Regis Philbin days.
Wow.
He made it to the contestants row, but his fingers just weren't fast enough to get him into the hot seat. But he was very happy he got to meet Regis and give him a big hug.
That's really cool. What about you?
I was on The Weakest Link.
The Weakest Link.
The syndicated version, George Gray was the host, and I made it to the final two, and I choked.
Oh, no. Well, hey, is there a game show you're trying to get on right now?
Password.
I'm coming down to the final question. Is there anything else, before I get to this last question, that you wanted to share that you haven't shared?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So to someone who is not a memory maker, and they might be watching this episode and they're thinking of coming to the river, they're a little bit unsure, not sure what they're getting themselves into, what advice would you offer to that person?
If you connect with the people that you meet at Broad River, come on in.
Come on in. Okay, Lynn, I've got one more thing for you. I like to ask some folks that work with you maybe to tell us a little bit about you. And so let me just take a couple minutes here because I've polled some of your fellow memory makers. So from Shelby Hill, who works in merchandising, this is what she says. I am grateful for the opportunity to work for and alongside such a remarkable leader. From day one, you made me feel so incredibly supported, trusted, and empowered, and you haven't stopped. Your focus on the importance of understanding the why and cooperative collaboration have made extraordinary impacts, not only on me and the merchandising team, but throughout Broad River. You are a champion of both professional and personal growth and development, and that support does not go unnoticed. Thank you for being you. That comes from Shelby. Well, we might get a little bit emotional because he goes on. These are powerful.
I didn't know this was happening.
Well, yeah, life is much more fun with spontaneous surprises. As you know, purpose bombs, right?
Right.
So call this a podcast purpose bomb. From Brian Deckelnick, who you were talking about earlier, Lynn is one of the most collaborative, humble, and empathetic leaders I have ever had the privilege of working with. Whether it's about the business or our personal lives, it's always a pleasure getting the opportunity to speak with her. From Heather Greenwood, who led the pack and who leads our Memory Maker Experience Department, MMX team, and who's also been on the podcast. Lynn is fiercely loyal as a friend, a memory maker, a leader, a wife, and a mother. If Lynn says it, she means it, and she takes action. That's where that integrity word comes in, right? She is a protector and looks out for everyone around her. She is courageous, brave, strong, and independent. Her heart is bigger than anyone I know. Her care for others runs deep. Lynn would do anything for those she loves. I feel lucky to know her, lucky to call her my friend, lucky to call her a mentor, and lucky to have her as inspiration. Lynn has taught me so much over the past few years, and I am beyond grateful that she is in my life. I just got a couple more. From Stacy McCormick. Lynn is an amazing partner. She is a talented merchant. A few words to describe Lynn: dependable, super efficient, caring, highly collaborative. There's that collaborative word again. Kind, and she over-delivers, which is a great quality to have. I love working with Lynn Knowles, and my confidence is increased in our ability to deliver results because of amazing partners like Lynn. From Manny. Lynn is a purpose-driven people leader that takes time to connect and build lasting relationships with her team and fellow memory makers. She helped us launch and activate our purpose statement and has grown with us into a leadership role. And I got one more. From your favorite memory maker, Kim Harkness.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
This is too much.
Well, this is the last one. Lynn is a person that celebrates your biggest joys with you, and she's also the person I'd pick every time when you need someone to have your back. I remember going to Asheville the afternoon before the grand opening. I had to get the store set up for the ribbon cutting the next day. I was there by myself on the first of 3 consecutive stores we were going to open that week. and still under some travel protocols from COVID. I already knew I was in for a long evening, as it would take several hours to get everything ready with none of the usual helping hands on deck for this one. I hadn't been there long when I heard from the front of the store, "Kim Harkness, I'm here to help. What can I do so we can get this store set in time to go enjoy a nice dinner tonight? Because it would be a shame not to." I turned around and there was Lynn, ready to jump in and get it done. What would have taken 3 to 4 hours soon became only a few, and even included some smiles and laughter. Indeed, we finished in time to have that nice dinner together in downtown Asheville. And you guessed right, we had the good wine that night. So, Lynn, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for being willing and courageous enough to come and do this. I know it can maybe produce a little bit of anxiety, but you've got a powerful story from the merchandising team over a tumultuous past 2+ years with COVID, and you've been a blessing to the organization. And thanks for all that you do, from Vegas markets to purpose bombs to purpose breakout sessions to loving and leading on our people and leading with integrity and care. And so thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Hey, that is Lynn Knowles, Stories from the River. Join us every Wednesday. We try to bring you fresh new content from the river, from our fellow memory makers and folks from the field. And listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you're listening to us today, or Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, or watch the videos on YouTube. We work hard to bring you this video content as well. Do us a favor. Mash that subscribe button or that like button and to help us grow the podcast and let us know, send us feedback. Let us know how you think we can make it better. Thanks so much, Lynn.
Thank you.